Hello, you wonderful humans. Thank you for being here. It's Drew from 3D Wellness. It's 7 o'clock on a Wednesday evening. That means it's time for a Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. Now, I got to start by apologizing to all my Instagram people. I didn't post a video on here last Wednesday. However, my YouTube people know that we were live last Wednesday because I was posting to my private Instagram account. Yes. So I am very sorry to my Instagram people. I figured accidentally posting to my personal account was an inevitability. But the good news is last week's Ask Drew Anything workshop is available on our YouTube channel right now. You can head over, just search for DDD Wellness. I have a playlist set up for Ask Drew Anything, and you can click on last week's workshop. You can watch that. And if any questions come to mind about what we covered last week, just reach out to us. Here are all the different ways to get a hold of us: phone number, email, etc. And then you can ask me any questions about last week's workshop. Tonight, we're going to do what we always do. You can ask me any question that's coming to mind. If you don't want to chat in the question on Instagram, you can just give us a call. We'll answer the phone. We'll answer the question live on the air. I want to tell you what we've been seeing this week in clinic. Took on a client a few weeks ago that has some neurological issues, specifically numbness and loss of control of their left hand. That's a problem because they operate machinery where they need both hands, and they're reporting that the hand is still getting numb, but they're not losing control of it. It just doesn't feel like they can feel it working, but they can see it moving and can still control it. Got a client who hasn't had a migraine in a week for the first time in over a year. It's pretty outstanding. It's like getting your life back. We had overnight cramps go away. This client was getting cramps in the bottom of their foot, their left foot, and in both calves. And they started something called Cataplex E2. And they are no longer getting those cramps. If you want more on this, just chat vascular cramps, because a lot of people get muscle cramps, and a lot of people mistake muscle cramps for vascular cramps. And they're very different in terms of how you handle them and what's going on in the body. So if you want more on what a vascular cramp is instead of a muscle cramp, just let me know. Had a client come in here with some irritable bowel symptoms that are starting to get a lot better. A client that was having trouble staying asleep. This might not sound that amazing, but now they're staying 5 to 6 hours a night. Whereas in September when I met them, they were only able to sleep 2 to 3 hours at a crack. So it's a big difference in terms of rest and recovery. And then cracking joints was the other one I wanted to bring up. This is a young man. He's 15 years old. And what the mom said, the house they live in is old and the staircase is old, so it creaks, but she can hear her son's ankles, knees, and hips popping and cracking when he walks up and down the stairs over the sound of the creaking staircase. We're only about 4 weeks into his program here, but already the mom is noticing that there aren't as many pops and cracks when he's going up and down the stairs. They're still happening, but there's not as many of them. And that's because we're starting to balance out those minerals on his hair tissue mineral analysis. So a lot of people ask me why I'm so into this work, why I still get so excited about this work. I'll tell you, it's because every week I get to see such a diverse group of symptoms and issues. Keeps me on my toes. It doesn't get boring. There's always stuff going on here. So this is what we did this week. The incomparable Two Boots Lori LeClaire is wrapping up some things right now. So I'm going to step off camera and see if any questions are chatted in. Remember, as long as we're getting questions chatted in or called in, we'll keep going. But as soon as there aren't questions, I'll bid you farewell. So I'm going to check for those questions now. All right, we got some pretty hilarious stuff on YouTube. I like the chat section on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube right now, we got people saying I have a new subscriber on there. That's pretty cool. I think somebody on there called me Brew instead of Drew. It's Ask Drew. That's me. Anything you want to meet me sometime, we can meet at a bar and have a brew. And there was some other comment, but just general hilarity. I appreciate that. I like that. All right, something that came up recently, my personal life with a family member is heart health. So I want to go over some of the basics of that and what we should do to make sure that we're taking care of our heart. First and foremost, we got to understand that the heart is a muscle. Muscles are happiest when you feed them. The best thing you can feed a muscle is protein and fat. Body needs those, body wants those, muscles thrive on those. They're critical for the functioning of that muscle. And the other thing is there's all this connective tissue involved. You want to make sure that it is elastic. You want to be able to stretch it, and then have it go back and totally regain its original shape, like a fresh rubber band. You know what I'm talking about. When a rubber band is fresh, you can stretch it, stretch it, stretch it, and when you let go, it goes back to its original shape. But when rubber bands get old, you stretch them, sometimes they snap, or sometimes they just stay stretched out. You don't want that, especially when it comes to your heart. This thing is in constant motion. You want to make sure that it can stretch and go back, stretch and go back thousands and thousands of times over and over and over again. And then there is the vascular tissue. So it's your blood vessels, veins and arteries. Okay. The biggest thing that I see blood vessels, veins, and arteries are in need of is going to be 2 vitamins, vitamin C and vitamin E. Unfortunately, in our modern world, our modern food supply doesn't have the levels of these 2 nutrients that it used to have. So these are 2 of the most common deficiencies I see clinically here and that we supplement to address. I would love to say that if we just ate more cherries and more citrus, that we could get enough vitamin C just from those foods to make it work. The amount of cherries you'd have to eat would mess with you in other ways. Vitamin E. Most grain products in the United States used to have the germ. So like if you're making like wheat bread, for example, you would have the germ mixed in with it, which is the outer hull, and it would be very rich in vitamin E. But all that stuff is pretty much stripped away nowadays. So you still have the carbohydrate, you have the calorie source from the grain, but you don't have the nutrient source from the grain. So we got to get more vitamin E if we're going to take care of those blood vessels. So this family member of mine, what they said was they were having some upper back discomfort. They went to their doctor, and the doctor was taking pictures with an x-ray, and they noticed that there were things on the x-ray that shouldn't be there, namely calcifications around the heart. So we know there's something going on with the blood vessels because there was calcification within there. So they reached out to me and they said, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm working with a cardiologist. I'm working with my primary care physician, but I also want to hear, what would you do nutritionally to support helping my body correct this? So we went over the importance of protein and fat. They actually told me they're not having any protein at breakfast ever. Their breakfast is primarily oatmeal and 1 or 2 cups of coffee with creamer in it. Totally deficient in protein. So we started to add in some protein, and then the protein sources we're using, which are like things like eggs and sausages, also come with some good fat. The connective tissue issue, to make sure that we have the elasticity, what we started to do was provide more minerals, and that was Mintran. If you've watched these live streams before, you know I love Mintran. I put so many people on Mintran because it has so many of these nutrients that we used to get more of from our food that we don't anymore. So we're using Mintran, and a little bit goes a long way for most people when it comes to Mintran. Most people are taking 2 a day. And then there is a very specific supplement that is rich in vitamin C and vitamin E and was designed for the heart. Okay, we're going to break it down. There are 2 supplements that were designed for the heart. They both have C and E. And there's a symptom that we can use to tell us which one of these supplements we should have. There's low blood pressure, then there's high blood pressure. And chances are you've heard way more about people with high blood pressure because that is far more common, but it is not the only blood pressure issue that's out there. So for low blood pressure, we're going to use a supplement that's called Vascular. It's made by Standard Process. It is rich in both C and E. It also has certain B vitamins in it that help support the heart, keeping the pressure up in an ideal range. Now, I want to be really clear about this. It does not just crank up your blood pressure, right? I don't have any supplements that just crank up blood pressure. But often low blood pressure is because certain nutrients are missing, and the body would like to have a higher blood pressure so it can push blood into more of the nooks and crannies around the body. But if it's missing those nutrients, it can't push the blood into those nooks and crannies. And that's where Vascular comes in. This one's really, it's not a lot of it that you need. Most people, it's 3 or 4 of them a day. And you can actually take all of those at once. Clients, when I put them on it, I usually give it to them at breakfast because it's a little bit energizing. If somebody has high blood pressure, we're going to look at a supplement called Cardio Plus. Ooh. The same kind of thing, 3 or 4 a day works wonders for people. What this has is a different set of B vitamins within it that help relax blood vessels so that they can dilate a little bit more. And when they dilate that little bit more, pressure goes down a little bit. Now, again, I want to be super clear. Cardio Plus does not force vasodilation or the opening up of blood vessels. It is the nutrients that the body uses to do that. So if your body is trying to accomplish some relaxation of blood vessels and it's deficient in the nutrients in Cardio Plus, then when you give those nutrients, the body will be able to do that relaxation of the blood vessels. So when we're talking about heart health, we're always talking about getting enough protein and fat. We want to make sure the connective tissue is nice and elastic, like a fresh rubber band, and I like Mintran for that. And then when it comes to the vascular tissue, the blood vessels, you can actually use any symptoms related to blood pressure, whether it's low or high, to help you determine which supplements you would use to help that. There you go. Two Boots is here.
I'm back.
We got some characters on the YouTube chat, and I'm happy to see it. I think somebody called me Brew on the YouTube chat. I'm here for that. I've been called worse things. Right, and chat in those.
No other questions on
Oh, yeah. And I also, Laura, you should know, while you were wrapping up, I was apologizing to Instagram for posting to the wrong account last week. Woo!
Lesson learned.
Bottom left corner has that little chat bubble.
Oh.
When you click that, you can click on live chat, and look at that.
Is that new? Never.
No, it's always been there.
Okay.
One person watching. Oh, all right. So somebody asked, am I a doctor? I am not a doctor, nor will I ever claim to be a doctor. It's a really good question. A doctor is going to diagnose different conditions. I will not diagnose anything. They're going to treat different conditions. I'm never going to say that I'm treating any kind of different conditions. What I'm interested in doing is supporting the body by giving it the nutrients it needs to have a chance at functioning optimally. So a lot of the things I talk about, are symptoms. A lot of my clients come to me with diagnoses from a doctor, and then we go over, all right, so you have this condition that you've been diagnosed with that affects this area of your body. Here are all the different nutrients we would apply to help that area of the body perform optimally. Now, you'll never hear me call myself a doctor because I'm not one. Good question. Thank you for asking. Any questions roll in? All right, Two Boots, do you have questions? Nope. Two Boots doesn't have a question. Y'all are a cheap date tonight, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I always appreciate everybody who watches these. What we see again and again is that overnight we get more than 100 views on these, and that's amazing. The classroom that we have here, I love it. It's part of the reason that we started to lease this space, but we can never comfortably fit 100 people in this classroom. I think at the open house, I think we had about 30 people in this room. That was pretty packed.
Oh yeah.
Because we had overflow into the lobby. That's pretty great. Yeah. So it's wonderful for us to know that the things we're talking about and the things we're trying to educate people on, that we can reach that many people due to the wonders that are Instagram and YouTube. We got some exciting stuff coming on YouTube, so I'm going to encourage everybody, whether you're watching it on Instagram or on YouTube, to pay attention to the channel over the next month. You probably know the series that I did called the ABCs of SP. And that's where I went through the entire standard process supplement catalog, supplement by supplement, given a 1-minute video, a YouTube short, about what is this supplement, what does it do for us, how could we use it, what kind of nourishment would we get from it. Well, since I did standard process, it's time to do MediHerb. For those of you that don't know, MediHerb is the herbal affiliate of standard process. When it comes to potency and quality, I have yet to find anything that beats MediHerb. So I want to make sure that you know how to use those MediHerb supplements. You get some ideas on how to use them, just like when we did, excuse me, the ABCs of SP. You got all sorts of ideas on how to use those supplements. I hope you have an excellent week. We'll be back next Wednesday. And you know what happens Wednesday at 7 o'clock. It's our Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. Until then, if you need us, here are all the ways to get to us. I'll see you next Wednesday.